Hello, thanks for joining me. My name is Jennifer Olivarez and I'm a crochet pattern designer. Blanket design is my specialty. Today I have something a little different and very special to share with you. In this video, I'm taking you behind the scenes of how I designed the Checkered Rose Blanket. This entire process started with nothing more than a color palette and the idea of a checkerboard. And it took quite a few experiments and a few surprises to land on the final motif and the finished blanket that you see here. So I'm just kind of starting blindly here. I'm just going to use a checkerboard pattern and I'm going to use these two colors and we'll see where it goes from there. I do kind of want it, I know that I want it to be floral, and I'm thinking that I want to use like a vintage rose motif because I have this like idea for a title in my head. I want to call it the Checkered Rose Blanket. I just think that's kind of a nice title. And so rarely in my designs does the title come first. Like it usually takes me forever to come up with a title. So if I'm really hoping that the whole rose idea works out because I like the name Checkered Rose and I like these two colors. Yes, back to the colors. I definitely knew that I wanted to do maroon and a pink. And these two colors from Lion Brand Basic Stitch seem to fit the bill. I really like, this isn't sponsored by Lion Brand or anything. I just really like this yarn because it's affordable and it comes in a wide range of colors and it stitches up really well for blankets. This color is pomegranate and it's kind of a maroon color. And then this color is blush heather and it's a really pale, kind of soft, muted pink. But I'm kind of liking how they go together. This has kind of a vintage feel to it, like I don't know, like it has a muted, faded feel to it. So I'm kind of liking that with my vintage rose pattern design idea. I think these two will go well together. As far as the actual motif goes, I know it's going to be a square motif because we're doing a checkerboard. But to start, okay, so I've got this idea in my head of a vintage rose. I have brought a book here to kind of show you because that's the next step I usually do is I'll of course go to Ravelry and see if anybody's done anything like this before because if they have, I don't want to do it. That's just the way I go. But then I also consult my books to see if things like my idea have already been done or if I'm using like a vintage pattern, I want to see how other people have done it in the past to see what approach they took. So here's one of the books. I found a nice rose pattern in here. So this is Margaret Hubert's Irish Rose, and it's kind of, it has a very, the beginning of it especially has a traditional Irish rose design. So it starts with like a ring, and then it has single crochets worked into that ring, and then you have double crochets divided by chains, and that creates a place into which you can work the next round of petals. And then the next round you'll work like a single crochet and chains, single crochet chain, all the way, working into the petals that you just into maybe the single crochet or from your original petal round of petals, working into that to create the spaces for the next round of petals. So then the next round of petals will be worked into the chains from the previous round. So you kind of have like it just keeps alternating, a round of single crochets and chains and then round of petals worked into those chains. So that's it gives me a good idea of the basis for what this vintage rose pattern or design is constructed. So I went ahead after that. Oh yeah, so I did this one. So we have here, so I instead of doing like a ring of single crochets and then working the double crochet with chains in between them, I did cluster stitches. So just a 2DC cluster divided by, I think, 2 or 3 chains all the way around. And then I worked pretty much, I think it is pretty much what I just showed you with Margaret Hubert's design, where I'm working petals into the chain spaces there, and then I go back and I add chains and a single crochet into the middle of the previous petal, and then add petals onto that. So this is kind of, other than the clusters in the center, this is pretty much your typical traditional Irish rose pattern. Yeah, so the only thing that's kind of unique is that cluster stitch in the middle. Now, I think this is really beautiful. Don't get me wrong. And I do want to keep this. I like that idea. But what I've kind of never really liked about this, I mean, it's great for, I think it would be great for like lace. Anything lace-y would be wonderful like this, but I kind of don't like how open it is, how there's like these big gaps. I've made a lot of blankets. I've designed a lot of blankets in my time that have lots of holes, and sometimes I like it, and sometimes I'm like, it's a blanket. It's supposed to be a little bit more closed. So I know there's like a balance, right? It's traditional for crochet blankets to be open and airy and holy. But with this in particular one, I think I want to try to do something that's a little bit less holy, like a little bit more solid, and see what happens. Because I think I kind of want these petals maybe to have a little bit more texture, maybe stick out a little bit, and then maybe have the background be solid, so that from the back maybe it'll be solid, and then have the petals kind of sticking up a little bit. And if I can do that in an easy way, I think I'll give that a shot. So I'm going to go play around with some stuff, and I'll be back and I'll share with you what I find. Here we are. Here's what I've concocted. I went a little nuts. And I said that I wanted it to be whole, or to be closed, and then I did something completely holy. I do that a lot. I'm quite the hypocrite when I'm designing. I'll think one thing and then try something else and like it better. I mean, it's a constantly evolving process, which kind of makes it fun to show you. I'm glad that I'm doing this because you get to see how things evolve over time, because a lot of times these designs, they're just, it's always a crazy work in progress, always changing. Okay, so for this one, so we started with the cluster stitches like I liked, and then I decided to, I'm not sure if I didn't do that before. Or did I? No, I didn't. With this one that I did before, I didn't use the single crochet. So then I single crocheted into the ring instead of putting the petals directly into it, to kind of give it more definition. If you can see that round after the clusters is single crochet, kind of hoping that that'll give it a little more definition. And then I just went into doing the petals. And then, so I did the petals in the front loop only, and ended up putting a round of double crochet with some increases into the back loop. So now we have kind of a more solid fabric on the back. So I did achieve my goal of making it more solid, less holy, which also gave it a lot of nice stability. It's much more stable now. And then I worked another round of petals in the front loop only, and then squared it off with the round after that working into the back loop only. And I like the way that the petals turned out, kind of. They're obviously like, okay, so they're really ruffly, which was not what I was going for. That's just me. I think I just put too many stitches into, it's just too many stitches. So if you are out there wondering, so if it's starting to ripple, that means you need to either make it bigger, make this round, the diameter larger, or you need to take out, like do less stitches. So either make that, don't start the petals until it's like probably about that big. You're probably going to have to go quite big in order to be able to work the petals in that round with this number of stitches and have it lay flat. So you have to either increase the diameter, or just maybe, I'm doing like 6 double crochets. Yeah, 6 double crochets across 3 stitches there. And that's too many for this space. So I need to put in less stitches there. Okay, so we'll do that. And then I decided I wanted to try something fun with the outer rounds here, this little border we've got. And so I did double crochet DC 3 together, separated by chain 3s, to create kind of like a, I thought it looked like a fun leaf accent. And then I did something similar up here where you're doing double crochet 4 together in between the 2 spaces. And I really like the way that this looks, but I don't know that it's right for this pattern. It's very busy, and I'm kind of starting to think that with these 2 colors, you know, we're going to have checkerboard. So it's going to be like maroon, pink, maroon, pink. It's going to be kind of busy. Checkerboards are busy. And I'm not sure if that might be too much texture. It might be too wild for a checkerboard. I don't know, but I definitely want to fix this petal situation and maybe make the last round just solid double crochet. Would that help? I don't know. I really like this, but maybe this isn't the right motif for it. I don't know. So I'm going to make a larger circle first. We'll start there and see if working this number of petals into it, or this number of stitches per petal into it, will work. Or if we'll just start there. And then I'll come back and I'll show you what I have, and we'll just keep going. I'm back and I have a larger wheel to share with you. So for this one, I made a larger ring to start and then worked 16 single crochet into the ring. And then I made my clusters separated by chains, and then I skipped a single crochet in between each cluster. And then I worked single crochets into the chain spaces on the last round. And where is my original one? Oh, okay. So here is the one that I was showing you before when I first finished this. And we had this was too small and there were too many stitches in the petals, so the petals were ripply. So I made a bigger wheel to start, thinking that I could then work a round of petals into that with this number of stitches and maybe it would work. But that's huge. This is as big as I want the motif to be. In fact, I think I might want it smaller, to be honest, but so I would only get one round of petals if I did this. And that's not what I'm going for. It's too big. And the hole in the center is too big for this. I mean, this is kind of like a delicate pattern, right? And that hole it's just too big. I should have known, right? Okay, so we're not going to do that. We're not going to do the wheel. We can move that aside. And instead, I'm going to just do less stitches in the petals, and we'll just start there. I might switch up this. The one thing I kind of liked about this was I like starting with a single crochet and then also having single crochet in this round worked into the first round of chain spaces. I think it gives a really nice definition to the beginning. It looks really polished. So I think I'm going to stick with that and then work the petals with less stitches and see what we can come up with. Okay. I'm so excited to share with you what I've made. Yay! I think it worked. Okay, so I started with 8 single crochets and then I worked my round of clusters and then single crochets into this round into the chain spaces, and then I worked the first round of petals into those single crochets, and I'm excited to say, so I did less stitches in the petals and they're laying flat. Yay! So I'm working just like I did with that one motif that I really liked. I'm working the rounds of petals into the front loop only, and then working another round of double crochet stitches into the back loop only. So that gives us a solid background. I mean, except for the middle wheel that we have there, but everything else is nice and solid and sturdy. But I really like how that came out with the petals. I like them nice and flat. I think that's really cool. I mean, it still has some texture to it. You know, they're raised a little bit, but they're not I like that they're not ripply. I like that it's flat. I just really like the way that turned out. And I kept my double crochet decrease or DC3 together round with some clusters in the corner. But instead of doing the double crochet 3 together or 4 together in the outer round here, I went ahead and just did double crochets, and I think it makes all the difference. I really like how that looks now. The only thing that I'm thinking, and I thought of this the whole time I was making those double crochet 3 together, and then, yeah. You know, I've gone to all this trouble to make it solid, and now I'm adding holes. That also kind of gets to me, because I'm like, yeah. I'm thinking I'm gonna have to save this for some other pattern. I love it. I think it's beautiful with this motif. I love how it kind of gives it a leafy feel to it, but I don't think I want to use it for this motif. And also I'm wondering if maybe I should just make the motif smaller. Like, I'm still kind of wondering if that's going to be too busy. Like, maybe the only texture that you need in this motif is the flower itself, and then just make this double crochet so it's smaller and all you have is the flower. I'm going to go try that and see what it looks like, and I will come back and show you what I have. I am back, and I'm so excited to show this to you. Yay! Look what I made. Isn't that cool? Okay, so for this one, I kept the clusters in the center with starting with single crochet clusters and then a round of single crochet, and then I kept the petals exactly the same way as I did before, working in the front loop and then in the back loop only for the rounds after the petals. So looks like this on the back. How cool. Nice and solid. And then the petals just kind of stick up nicely. Not too much, but just a little bit of texture there. And then instead of doing the this kind of leaf looking double crochet 3 together stitch, I just went ahead and finished it off with a round of double crochet, and I am super happy with how that turned out. I think that's a great idea. Yay! I like the idea that it's smaller too. So where's the one I just did? Is this one? It's like maybe 2 inches smaller than the one underneath it, the one we had before. So I think it ends up being like 4.5 inches, this one, which I think is a good idea for a motif blanket where you're going to be doing checkerboard design. I think that will be good. So this is going to be like a smaller, it's on the smaller end. You're probably going to get, so it's 4.5 inches, probably like for like a good size blanket, like a large throw that's maybe 54 by 64 or something like that. So what would that be? I don't know. I'm not going to try to do the math, but it's going to be like 12 motifs. We're going to do like, yeah, somewhere around 12 motifs across and 14 motifs down. So that's a good number of motifs to have to make. It's like 160 something or something. I'm so not good at math on the fly, but I'm just trying to think out to myself, like, is that an unreasonable amount of motifs? And I don't think so. I mean, like, also, is that going to look crazy? Like, I don't want the squares to be so big that you only have like 5 motifs across or something. Because then you kind of, it's no longer, I don't know, there's something about a checkerboard design when they're small, right? When you have big checkerboards, it kind of loses. It's not the look I'm going for right now, okay? It's not necessarily bad. It's just not the look I'm going for, because I want this to be really delicate. And I want the motifs to, I want the flowers to be something that you see as your second look. Do you know what I mean? Like, I want you to look at the blanket and see the checkerboard pattern and then look at it again and go, whoa, those are flowers. You know what I mean? Like, if you have a big motif with a big flower inside, you're going to see the flower first. you know what I mean? Like, you'll probably see them both together. It's a checkerboard, it's a bunch of flowers, but the flowers will hold the same weight as the overall design itself. So I want this to be a little bit more delicate, and I want for the flowers to be like a surprise. I want you to be like, whoa, there's flowers in those squares. You know what I mean? Like, it's the texture. I want the texture of each of the squares to be the flower, and I want the overall look to be the checkerboard to be dominant. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going for. So I think this is my motif, and I like that it's a little bit smaller. So I thought I'd pull together all my other flowers here, or all my other motifs, and show you the progress we've made this week. Not too shabby, but this is actually one of the more straightforward, or like quicker designs that I've done, you know, to go. I think because I was starting with a design that is already well established. It's nice when you have something, a traditional pattern to start from, because you kind of have, you know, it's going to work. You know that the basic design, the foundation is going to work, and you can kind of just expand from there and add your own spin to it. Yeah, so next up I'm going to see what it looks like with our maroon color here. Let me move these away a little bit so we can see what this is going to look like. So I started to whip up a maroon one. Well, it doesn't show up as nice on the camera as I thought it was going to. Here, I'll have to go like this. So I've got the first round of petals made, and I think that's going to be kind of cool. What do you think? I hope this works, because I'm loving the design. It looks great in the pink. I hope it will look just as good in the maroon. I'll go ahead and whip up my maroon motif, and I'll come back to share with you what that looks like. Well, I'm back, and I'm happy to report that I crocheted one of these motifs with maroon. This is the pomegranate color, and I think it turned out really nice. I think that's going to work really well. And the two of them together look pretty cool too. In fact, how about I lay out this checkerboard pattern and let's see what it's going to look like, because that's pretty, I mean, that's the real test, right? If these two will work together nicely in a checkerboard fashion, then we'll know that our blanket is ready, is a go, right? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move everything out of the way here, and let's make our checkerboard real quick. I don't know if you can hear it, but it's raining outside today. It doesn't rain a whole lot here in Idaho, but when it does, I don't know, I just get all of the cozy feels, and I just want to like spend the whole day curled up with my crochet, listening to the rain outside. It's going to be awesome. I'm looking forward to this day. And I think I can look forward to joining these motifs, because they're looking pretty special. Look at that. Oh my gosh. I'm loving it. I really, really, really love the texture and the size. I think that was a good choice to go with a smaller size, because I think that's going to be just right. Like, it's just enough texture. What I was saying before about how I wanted you to see the checkerboard pattern first and then realize that there was a floral texture inside. I think that is actually happening. I think I do get that look to this. Cool. Well, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. Yay. That means that we can continue with our blanket. It's working so far. I was really worried after I made all these motifs. No, it's looking good. Okay. So I'm going to clean up my mess here, and I'll be back in just a second. We'll go over some other things. So now that I've got some motifs made, I've actually started blocking them as well. And I wanted to take a moment to talk about that a little bit, because I've always heard that, well, the general consensus, I guess, is that blocking acrylic yarn, wet blocking acrylic yarn, is not worth it. That acrylic yarn won't respond to it, and that you should use like steaming, or some people will actually use an iron. I don't do any of those. I just simply wet block. the same way that I would do for wool or cotton. And to be honest, I've had really good results from it, so I just keep doing it. So I wanted to share a little bit, show you a comparison of what we have here, what I experienced. So this motif, I haven't even woven the ends in on. I just made it, and I'll put that here. And this is one of the motifs that I recently blocked. So let's see if we can see a difference. I mean, it's not crazy noticeable, but I can see a difference. I feel like the petals on this one that I blocked are laying a little bit flatter, and you can see that the edges are a little bit more even, and you've got nice crisp corners. I mean, I think it's enough of a difference that I would go ahead and block these, because I think in the end I'm gonna really, I can feel it when I touch these. I can tell that this is flatter than this is. I can just tell. I think it's worth it, to be honest, because we're gonna be using an invisible mattress stitch to join these, and for that you want like really nice crisp edges, and it's just easier to work into when your stitches are nice and even and straight. So I really think that wet blocking is worth it for this. I mean, like I said, I do it exactly the same way that I do that I would block something for, that's made of wool or cotton. I fill the sink up with cool water and put my motifs in it and dunk them in, push them down into the water, let them absorb all the water, and let them sit for like 20 minutes or something. And then I pull them out and roll them. Don't bring them too crazy. Even with acrylic yarn, I still try to be gentle with it. And then roll them up in a towel and press out any excess water and pin them on a foam board. I'll pin each of the motifs out to 4.5 inches and let them dry. And because these are like double layered, they do tend to take a little bit longer to dry. It's been about 24 hours for each of these, for all the motifs for this blanket. But I think it's worth it. Anytime you can do a little something to improve the finished look of your blanket, this thing that you're spending so much time on, that may one day become an heirloom for someone, I think it's worth putting in that little extra effort to make it as nice as it can be. As I was crocheting these motifs this week, I started to realize that 160 motifs is actually kind of a lot. I was being overly ambitious to think that I would want to crochet that many motifs. So I've redrawn the layout, and now there are only 99 motifs, which is much more doable and a lot less overwhelming. So that means that once all the motifs are joined, it will be about 40 by 49 inches or so. And then I can add a wide border. If I add a 3-inch border, for instance, the finished blanket will measure something like 46 by 54 or so, and that's closer to what I was originally thinking. Now that the layout is decided, I just have to finish all these motifs and block them, and then I can start joining them into strips. All of my motifs are finished, and I've begun joining them into strips. I've decided to use an invisible mattress stitch to join my motifs. I prefer this method whenever I'm joining motifs that are different colors because it produces a nice, crisp, clean edge where the colors meet. But one thing that I didn't really think through when I began joining 99 motifs using the invisible mattress stitch was just how many ends that would leave me to weave in. 192 to be exact. Since this is how I started, I guess I'll go ahead and continue using the invisible mattress stitch to join the motifs in my blanket, but I'm going to have to offer an alternate method in the pattern itself. There are a few other methods out there that I know of that produce similar results without all of this fuss. It took me days to sew my motifs together, and even longer to weave in all those ends, but by golly I did it, and I'm really happy with how it turned out. Now that my motifs are joined, it's time to design the border. I want to create a delicate and lacy border that uses some of the same stitches that were used in the motifs, such as the cluster stitches in the center of the motifs and the double crochet groups flanked by chains that I used for the petals. To do this, I'm combining a few stitch patterns that work with a few different stitch multiples. I won't bore you with the math, but it takes a minute to figure these things out. Once I've worked out a combination of stitch patterns that I think will work well together, it's time to test it out through swatching. It almost always takes a few tries to get it right, but eventually I found a combination of stitches that gave me the look I was going for and worked out mathematically. I also crocheted a small granny square swatch so that I could figure out how to continue the border around a corner. Again, it took a few tries to get it right. It was a real eureka moment when it finally came together. Better check to make sure it works with the actual blanket too. Once I had a border design I was happy with, it was time to write the pattern and start adding the border to the blanket. Here's a photo of those first few rounds. And here's the finished border. And finally, drum roll please, here's the finished blanket, along with a matching pillow. I hope you enjoyed this behind-the-scenes look at the design process for this unique blanket. I've always loved mixing floral and geometric elements, so creating the Checkered Rose Blanket was truly a joy. One of the biggest surprises for me was how working the petals into the front loops made them lift right off the fabric. It added such a beautiful texture to the checkerboard design, and it ended up becoming one of my favorite parts of the whole project. I'm so happy with how it turned out, and I'd like for you to experience it too. If you'd like to make your own Checkered Rose Blanket, you'll find the pattern linked in the description below. Thanks so much for watching. Until next time, happy stitching. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe for more crochet techniques, tips, and tutorials, and check out the links in the video notes for more ways to find me and my patterns.